Hey guys, what's going on today? It's your boy Infinity bringing you yet another video on amateur Call of Duty esports. This time again I'm going to be talking about CWL Miami. More specifically, it's time for my predictions. Now the bracket has finally been released. I did intend to do this video yesterday. I had a video recorded and it was sent out, but a few changes were made to the bracket, so I had to redo it, and hence why it's now releasing on the actual day Miami is starting. However, now, as I said, the bracket has finally been released, so we can actually talk about, at the very least, the winners bracket, which I do have on my other monitor here. So let's just talk about this real quick. So just as a heads up, of course, there'll be 8 teams going through from the winners bracket at the very least, and they will all qualify in winners round 4. So this will be best of 5. Every single match before this is best of 3. Now that changes things quite dramatically, especially as we go further down the bracket, and I'll point out some early matches, or one in particular that's going to be a bit spicy. But for the most part, what I'm going to be talking about is those qualification matches, which teams I expect to get there, and which one of the 2 in the qualification match I think are going to win. So starting up the first 8 of the bracket, you've got Mindfreak, top seed, I believe the only team to get a bye in this event. They will either be facing Scars or Fuego Gaming. Of course, Scars the Australians and Fuego Gaming the Europeans. I think it's going to be Fuego, and it'll be Mindfreak versus Fuego in this matchup. I think obviously Mindfreak are going to take it. They're the obvious pick there, a much better team than Fuego Gaming, but anything can happen. It's Call of Duty. Moving on, second 8th here, you got Team War, the 8th seed. They've got Tal early on. It'll be an interesting matchup. I think maybe Tal can take a map off them. I do think War will go on marching to the qualification matchup, where they will either face Hybrid Gaming or Nemesis. I'm pretty sure it'll be Hybrid. And it will be a close one, I think, Hybrid versus War. I think it may even go to Game 5, but I do think War will edge it out. I think they've been in peak form recently. So I think they'll absolutely qualify via the winners bracket and not have to go through losers to ensure champs at the very least. Moving on to match number 3, we have Giants, number 4 seeds. I don't think they're really going to have any issues from the 7 teams they're going to face getting up to that qualification matchup. However, when it comes to it, they do have a fair bit of a struggle, whoever they face. I mean, there's a few options. You've got Movistar Riders, who I do think will get through and will be the most interesting qualification matchup, just based off the fact that it's the Spanish sort of bowl, as it were, Giants versus Riders. Then you've got Cyclops and Fury to worry about as well. To be honest, I do think, like I said, it'll be Giants versus Riders, and just even though Riders did beat Giants, I think Giants are the better team in this scenario. I think they will probably end up winning. They've been more consistent throughout the season. Moving on, Sicario Gaming, Tommy's team, the European North American mashup. I think they're probably going to get through without much of a struggle at all to the qualification matchup. However, when they get there, they will be going up against Sage. Now, just on recent form alone, I'm going to be picking Sage in this matchup. It just seems pretty obvious to me that Sage are the better team, and anyone who follows the amateur scene will know how good of a form Sage have been in recently, both in the 1K as well as actually qualifying via the amateur final national qualifier. So for me, it will be Sage in that matchup. Sicario going to have to go through the losers bracket. Moving on to the lower half of the bracket now, you've got Team Sween or Team Quicker, known as The Boys. That's got Vance and Shawnee on it. Honestly, they're not going to have any issue in this qualification matchup. They're just not. They've got Encrypted and Divinely. They might take a map off of them, but I don't necessarily think this is going to be a problem for Team Sween. Their only issue is it's going to be this team. We did it for Ari, so if you do know who they are, that is Pharaoh's team. I will say that one of their players hasn't turned up to the event, Teskey, so that may cause an issue. They may not be as strong as they once were. I therefore do think Sween are going to get through them, but if anything, their only issue is going to be Team Pharaoh here. We do it for Ari. Their qualification matchup is going to be an easy win for them. Moving on, we've got yet another really interesting one. To me, this is pretty straightforward as to who's going to go through. Aspire Esports, like I said, the most consistent North American team right now out there in the amateur scene. They're going to go up against Singularity, in my opinion. SNG will have to go through fellow Europeans AFAME to get there, but I don't think they're going to have any problems with that, really. And honestly, as much as I love Singularity, and I think they're one of the most talented squads in the open bracket at Miami, I think Aspire will probably end up taking this matchup and going through from winners. Moving on, Mazer Gaming. Now, this is one, when I recorded the video last time, they weren't an announced squad, so I didn't actually know that they'd be teaming together. It's Spaceley's team, they're just going to get through. They've got Rampage, which is a pretty interesting round 2 matchup, if Rampage even win round 1, but and Libalance Vertex in round 3. So Mesa have an interesting run to their qualification matchup. However, when they get there, all they're really going to face is Vertex, and I don't think they're going to have any issue, you know, taking out Vertex, to be honest. There's nothing against Vertex, I just think Mesa's run is extremely easier. It's a lot easier than a lot of teams in this bracket, put it that way. Moving on to our final 8th of the bracket, Train Hard, the sort of French, Spanish, UK hybrid. They've got a very easy run, in my opinion, to the qualification matchup. The only sort of contestant is J4L. I think they'll probably dispatch of them quite easily. When they get there, though, it'll be versus In Control Gaming. It's going to be, I think that's Knight's team. They're going to win. I think In Control have absolutely got that matchup. Train Hard are a relatively new team. Even with the absolute talent that is Yako, I don't necessarily think they are going to qualify via the winners bracket. So that's going to be the winners bracket. Just to run through very quickly about which teams I think are going to win each one. You've got Mind Freak for first there, War in the second, 8th. Then you've got Giants here in the 3rd. You've got Sage in the 4th. You've got Team Sween in the 5th. You have Aspire Esports in the 6th. Mesa Gaming in the 7th. And finally, In Control Gaming in the 8th. So a lot of North American presence there in the winners bracket. But that's not all. Let's go into which teams I think, without seeing the bracket, bear in mind, I think are going to be able to get through as the other 8 teams to qualify for champs. Okay, so let's talk very briefly about the top 16 teams that I think are going to come out of this event. Of course, those teams will qualify for COD Champs. Now, as I said previously, the teams on the left are the ones that have already qualified for Champs in my world via the winners bracket. In this reality, that means that leaves 8 spots for losers bracket, and I think the 8 teams on the right are going to be the teams that cover those spots. So let's just go through one by one and take a look at which teams I think are going to qualify for champs. So you got Hybrid and Sicario right at the top. Hybrid, pretty standard team. I think even without Pentagram, they're a really highly talented team. They should get through without really any of a struggle at all. Sicario Gaming, it's the Tommy story, you know, the Tommy effect. He can take unknowns and make them into absolute stars. And that's not to say that Linear and Exceed weren't stars before, because they're very good players. They have proven themselves this season. And especially, you know, you've got Proto and Chino, who are also, you know, ex-pro players. I think they should be fine. Again, a really good team. Moving on to European teams, Fuego and Singularity. Fuego, really promising lineup of players. I think Madcat and Hawkeye teaming with relative unknowns, and Shaxter, Payne and Connor. Again, they should absolutely qualify, and I think they'll come out and shock a lot of teams in Miami. Same with Singularity. I think people do expect from Singularity, but I don't think they expect enough for them to really shock some of the higher level teams. They got a rough draw in the winners bracket against Aspire. I don't think they'll win that matchup, but against even some of the teams in the top 8, like, I think they could win a match against maybe even Giants. They could definitely take a match away from Sage at the very least. So I think Singularity here will get through to champs. Moving on, you've got Encrypted Gaming. Now, this is one of the teams that I think may just slip the net, may fall out of the top 16. I have faith in Fellow. I have faith in Goonjar. Haven't seen enough from Fury, Happy, and TCM recently to say confidently that they will qualify for champs. But if I had to pick a team inside the top 16 that would qualify for champs, it would be these guys. Star Riders. They've been pretty standard. They've been pretty consistent recently. Of course, they had that amazing win against Giants to qualify for Miami. Bringing Supras and losing Vortex hasn't had that big of an effect on them. I thought it might have a bigger effect than it has, but to be honest, it hasn't. I think they're absolutely great at the moment, and they're living their best life, as it were, and they should be in Miami. Final 2 teams, Train Hard Esport. Even with a slightly altered roster, I think bringing in Yako is really going to boost these guys up to a top 16 spot, maybe even a top 12. I can absolutely see them getting into the top 12 without much of a problem. I do expect that from this team. I think they are going to surprise a few people in Miami. And finally, Team Pharaoh. This is a little bit like Encrypted for me, kind of an unknown in a way. I think just on name brand alone, I put them in here with Pharaoh and Shotzi, of course, because people rate Shotzi incredibly highly. Spartan Pacer are also great players. The only issue for me at the moment with Pharaoh is that potentially their fifth may not be anywhere near as good as the rest of the roster. We don't know who it is. I think Scoliosis may be looking for a team, but I'm not really sure about that. So that's going to be my Champ 16 as it currently stands. Now let's look at the top 8 for the event. So let's look at my top 8 then for CWL Miami. So I'm just going to run it right from the top. We've got Mind Freak. Now Mind Freak are the obvious choice. Every caster and analyst in the scene is going to pick them. That is for a reason. You don't win back-to-back best of 5s in back-to-back events for no reason without winning a third. I think they're going to do it, to be honest. And I have made a point before that they're not a cut above the rest, and I still stand to that. That they are not sort of like this godlike amateur team that is far and above and beyond every single other squad in the amateur scene, because they're just not. But I do think they are good enough to take another event, and I think they will do it here. Moving on to second place. Second for me is a little bit is going to be. It's going to be a bloodbath for second here at this event. Just looking at the second, third and fourth for me here, I really struggled to place them in any particular order. I did have Bance as second though. I've just got this feeling that Nasty and Quicker are going to really turn up this event. This is the first time we're seeing Bance and Shawnee in the amateur scene too. So I'm kind of excited to see what those players are going to bring to the table. I think it's going to be real damaging to a lot of the amateur teams that aren't going to really expect them to perform potentially. Moving on, War Esports. For me, I'm genuinely amazed at this squad's performance recently. They've improved so much. They've done really well leading up to the event, and I think that online performance is going to translate very well to LAN. So much so that I think a top 3 performance isn't out of the realms of possibility. You have to, cast your mind back to London, where not necessarily this squad got second, but Josh and DFrag did, and to me, at the very least, Dave, PT and Vortex, not bad players by any means, so I think they should be fine here. And a third place finish is a great one for this team. Moving on to Team Mazer or Mazer Gaming. I struggled to place these guys, but I will say that they will get top 4 easily without a struggle. Look, Spacely is such a great player. I think he's going to lead this squad to a top 4 finish at Miami without a shadow of a doubt. Moving on, top 6, we've got Giants and Aspire. Giants first. This squad has been incredibly consistent over the Call of Duty Black Ops 4 season. Bringing in Sukri, who is a great player. Yeah, alright, they lost Yakko, but I don't think they've suffered that much at all. I think they should be fine, and a top 6 performance is what I expect. Aspire, I've said this before, the most consistent North American amateur team within the amateur circuit this season. They will continue to prove that here at Miami. Top 6 finish, kind of what I expect, but that's by no means their ceiling. Top 8, Team Singularity, Sicario Gaming. I've spoken a lot on Team Singularity about how much I expect from this roster, and I think a top 8 finish is within expectations. It's within reality too. It's not to say they're going to get top 4 or they're going to they might even win the event. I think top 8 they will be happy with too. And Sicario, this is sort of an outside finish, as it were. I would have had Team Ferro here had they not just lost their 5th. But for me, I think Sicario are going to be a real sneaky team that will sneak into that top 8. You've got Tommy, you've got Linear Exceed, Proto, and Chino. Very talented, very well-rounded squad. I think on LAN, they will be able to perform to the standard they need to get top 8. So that's going to do it for this video. There's my top 8 for the CWL Amateur Finals. All the action, I believe, starts tonight around 6 or 7 PM BST. If you are in the UK, unsure what that translates to. In America, probably like 3 or 4 in the afternoon. Thank you guys for watching this video. Of course, I've really enjoyed doing videos on CWL Miami. I will repeat this process for all future events. Champs included. I will focus on the amateur teams, and of course I will continue to look towards amateur lands as well as amateur leagues and doing event predictions and previews for that. Again, thank you so much for watching, guys. If you liked what you saw today, please like the video and subscribe to my channel for more content on amateur Call of Duty, and we'll see you in the next one.